Hello, you're watching World Talks on TVP World. My name is Sascha Fahrbach. We're talking about what more can we do to help Ukraine, also how to really make our defense industries work together. Europe's top diplomat Kaja Kallas stated as Europe's defense ministers gather in Cyprus for an informal gathering. Now, maritime security will be one of the focus areas. And this comes as NATO's largest Baltic maritime exercise continues. Baltops in the Baltic Sea near the port city of Gdynia, Poland. Now, to analyze the latest, we're now joined by retired Colonel Vaidotas Malinionis, founder and managing director of National Defense. Good to have you with us. Welcome.
Good morning. Thank you for inviting.
So, when Kaja Kallas, head of the European diplomacy, says, what more can we do to help Ukraine? What more can Europe do at this point in time on terms of defense?
Well, I think we should continue organizing supplies needed, ammunition and weapons for the Ukraine. Of course, it's a pity that not all countries followed the NATO General Secretary's Rutte's advice to provide for Ukraine 0.25% of the GDP, but majority of countries are doing so. So it would be good, not to talk, but also to increase the support. And it is important at this point because Ukraine right now is demonstrating, superiority. We can say that they are pretty successful in the Donbas region by not only defending but also organizing, paralyzing lines of communication. They're using, middle range drones capabilities. Also, they are impressively attacking strategic objects inside of Russia. So right now it's the right momentum. And of course, if European countries will understand that and if they will increase support, at this point, it is very crucial to help Ukraine to exploit their success.
Mm-hmm. Now, more is needed on the battlefield, that's for sure, for Ukraine. Now, tell us briefly, one of the things discussed is this European Peace Facility. So this is essentially this off-budget EU fund. It's, at this point, we're looking at about 6.6 billion in potential funding there. So tangibly, what could be discussed at this meeting? What can come out of that tangibly? And what does this money buy us?
Well, I think we also should remember that European nations are procuring from the United States needed equipment. Of course, right now America also has some issues because they used a lot of the needed military equipment in Strait of Hormuz. But nevertheless, European nations also have some resources, and it's good that we are already, our defense industries also started working on a much larger scale than before. So we should increase this support, and of course we should look also to sanctions what we are organizing against Russia. So I think the new package of the sanctions is also very important, to assist for Ukraine to achieve their success. So Europe has capabilities, Europe has resources, and I think better organization and better communication and better implementation of processes would assist tremendously.
Mm-hmm. And also, in that same clip, Kaja Kallas mentions these core European security interests, and she also mentions what's happened now with these E3 declaration. That's Germany, France, and the UK coming together in London. They had that joint declaration on Sunday where they go through 5-point proposals with Ukraine. We hear some similar things that aren't necessarily new about security guarantees for Ukraine, multinational force. What do you make of that? Is that somehow gaining new momentum? Where are we with this plan?
Well, I think this plan probably gets along with the success of Ukraine in the frontier in the battlefield, and also it also correlates very well with what President Zelensky also offered. Peace deal for Putin, for Russia. Of course, it was rejected, but this initiative is also a good addition and some kind of diplomatic pressure on Russia, because Russia is also, it looks like during this unsuccessful period in war, they are getting more divided, and those steps also, so to say, attract some powers in Russia, to maybe search for the deal. So I don't think it will be achieved, the deal, but anyway, those steps and messages are very important, and it also, I think, demonstrates for Russia that Western world is also trying to achieve the peace deal, and also demonstration of the good intentions is very important for the world society.
Mm-hmm. And also, so we have, on the one hand, statements and diplomacy. We have these meetings in Cyprus, but it's also about deterrence and showing what NATO can do. I just want to get your sense also what's happened now. It's a 2-week exercise, Baltops, that launched some days ago from Gdynia in the Baltic Sea in northern Poland. I mean, this is, I think, 15 nations. It's been running for decades, also including very much a heavy presence by the United States. What does that tell us in terms of interoperability? And also, how do we tie it, I'm curious as well, with the Baltics and the Nordic 8? I think there's also an interesting tie in there. So tell us your thoughts on that.
Yeah, Baltops is not a routine naval exercise. It's taking place ahead of the NATO summit, of course, and it serves both as practical test of a light military readiness and strategic messaging and NATO's commitment of defending the Baltic region. And the key training objectives includes, protection of sea lines of communication, reinforcement of sustainment of the Baltic states and the region, amphibious operations, mine countermeasures and maritime security operations, anti-submarine warfare, air and missile defense integration, protection of critical maritime infrastructure, employment of unmanned maritime systems, and also interoperability among allied naval, air, and land forces. And since Sweden and Finland joined the NATO, so Baltic Sea now became very, very NATO, so to say, lake. And those exercises, I think, is very important, and it showcases the NATO's effort to implement new regional defense plans, of course, strengthen eastern flank, improve military mobility and reinforcement procedures, exchange air and missile defense integration, protect critical infrastructure, and increase readiness for high-intensity conflict. So this is a demonstration of the will, and it's also a message to Russia that NATO is taking seriously and preparing for the crisis, for the possible crisis, and also very important thing that the leading of this exercise is flagman USS Mount Whitney, and this provides command and control of those exercises, and it demonstrates that NATO and the United States is also involved into the preparations for the possible crisis in the Baltic region.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as you said there, with the U.S. Navy 6th Fleet involved there, despite the turbulence we talk about often, it's still very much the United States involved in one of these largest, I believe the largest NATO naval exercises there in the region. Look, thanks so much for all that. Really enjoy your commentary as always. Retired Colonel Vaidotas Malinionis there. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
And thank you for watching. That concludes World Talks, but stay right here on TVP World for more news and commentary. Goodbye.